Well, hello, Scott. How amazing this is. We've been threatening, as you said, to do this for some time. It's so exciting to have you on this platform with me. I'm just, it's very serendipitous, and I always believe in divine timing. So we live in the same town, and we have many people that cross our paths similarly, and but all of a sudden it's like, nope, something needs to bring us together. So I welcome and thank you so very much for reaching out and deciding divine time was now. And I'm just so excited about the work you do, and maybe if we start with you telling us who you are. Well, I'm sure all the people that are listening might know, but let's just inform them as to who you are, what you're about, and I really want to know how this all started, because for me, the first time that I actually came across you locally was when we were in that ridiculous plan, whatever you called it, and we're in lockdown, and we all ventured down to the beach to go on long walks, and there was this little coffee kiosk thing, and there I saw these smiles, and I'm going, whoa, that's good, I like that. And then of course a friend of ours who doesn't even live in Victoria put us together, and so the rest is history. So how about you introduce yourself, Scott, and just give us a bit of an intro as to who you are, what you do, and why, and you the rest. I'll just give you the floor.
I love it, and
That's dangerous. I know that's dangerous.
it is, but I want to honor that, right? Because um, firstly, I want to start with thank you for touching hearts with me and connecting. As you said, you and I have been in and around the same circles for a long time, and this is the first opportunity we've had to sit down and do this. And yesterday, I was gifted the opportunity to sit and have breakfast with your beautiful community, and we touched hearts with many people. And that's what it's about for me. It's about touching hearts, authentic connection, listening and understanding with each other so that we grow together, and it's such a beautiful thing. Like, and just even your introduction then, because like I can see you dancing with who am I? What do I do? How did I get to this point? Because everybody's got a life story. Everybody's got a journey, right? And at 45 years old, I feel like I'm only just beginning a journey into whatever will be, but I'm so excited about the now, the right now, the opportunities that are being created, the hearts that are being opened, the genuine care we're learning for one another after being so distant from each other for so long. So, how did I become this man who lives with love in his heart, chooses every single action with love in his heart? Am I coming for love or fear? If it's love, then I have to go through with it. I have to follow that action. If it's fear, I have to find out why I fear it, and then either understand it or leave it alone. But it's a journey, right? It's a journey to get to that point.
It sure is.
So I'll give you a 3 to 4 minute rundown as to how I got to this point on a personal level before I step into the opportunity of the business of smiles. So at 14, I was on the streets after my parents separated, and through all sorts of different opportunities, I became a rat bag, and my single mum, who had two other kids to also support, rightly kicked me out. So there I was, couch surfing, living in garden sheds, and eventually I was taken in by a family who gifted me the opportunity of just a safe place to be, a safe place without judgment, so that I could just work through the next part of my life. And I'm forever grateful for that family. Some of my mates at the time didn't make it through. So I moved along a little bit. I travelled overseas when I was 23. An absolute education process, I will say, because at 23, I was a big fish in a very small pond, and then I moved overseas, and I realised just how much I was a small fish in a very large pond. That education of understanding that there's different ways of living, that the way in which I'd lived wasn't the only way to live, was an interesting opportunity. It still took a long time for that to sink in. So I came back from overseas when I was 27, and I ran a business, steel fixing, and did a great job of that. Had a lot of great success, and then an incident that happened when my son was born that I didn't see coming really changed me. Now, I was a rat bag. I was a massive drinker. I was a party boy, and that lifestyle and the influences around it created some situations that weren't great. The number one was an incident that happened when Oscar was born. So I had a business transaction go sideways 2 weeks before Oscar was born. My wife is Slovak, and so her whole family's back in Slovakia. So I chose to take a month off to support her and my son. Now, being the way in which I grew up, I didn't exactly want to be a father. I actually didn't. That was something that wasn't on my agenda. And at the time, looking back now, I could have loved my wife better through that time. 2 weeks before he was born, an incident happened, and it took away the first week of my son's life from me. Stress and anger and other opportunities. When he was first born, I got to hold him and do the first nappy, and then I was kicked out of the hospital. So for the first week of his life, and without the support from her family, I wasn't there. And for someone that didn't want to be a father, I'd failed at the first hurdle. That set pretty heavily with me. Might have also been one of the biggest gifts I could be given. So I had a burning desire to make up for that, a burning desire to become better than that. Move along a couple of years. It was little man was 2. It was the day before Mother's Day, and it was an extraordinary day in Melbourne. 28 degrees in May, so beautiful day. I'm out with my wife and my son. We park up, if you know Melbourne at all, St Kevin's, the college down there in Toorak, along the Yarra River. We drove in, parked up there, jumped on our bikes and rode into Port Melbourne. Beautiful, along the Yarra Trail all the way in. Came back to South Melbourne, had an extraordinary lunch. And if you've ever been to South Melbourne Market, you must have the dim sims. They're absolutely beautiful, and a burrito. And we just enjoyed this beautiful day, so much so that we got on the bike and we rode into St Kilda. And little man fell asleep on the back of the bike. So we pulled up, and a football match was playing. So we sat back and enjoyed the football match while little man had a little sleep. He woke up, and we take off back, and we head into the city, back into South Bank where the Lindt chocolate bar was. And I'll never forget me having my double hot chocolate, little man having his baby Cheeto, and Marcella having her cappuccino. Take off back to the car. We're a minute from the car. We're riding along the Yarra Trail. You've got the freeway, Yarra Trail, grass, and the river, Yarra River.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard a noise. I didn't have to turn around to actually know what had already happened. When I did, there was my wife lying on the ground, blood pouring out of her head and her mouth, not moving. I thought she was dead. Thank God my son was on the back of my bike. So I get up to her and I look at her and I'm freaking out, calling an ambulance. I've got holding her in my right arm, my son in my left. People kept running and riding past. Nobody stopped. It took over 20 minutes to get an ambulance to me in the middle of the city. Eventually, a young couple stopped and they managed to support us and get the ambulance to us. Burnt a hole in me. My wife had to learn to walk and talk again. And at that point, after the incident that already happened, we then lost everything. So we weren't protected. So I sat with me. What's the one thing I can do to make a difference to our society? Where a man with a woman and his son in his arms is supported. It's the most valuable things in my life, both of them, and no one stopped. My solution is smile. Smile. Reconnect the community. Bridge that gap. You know? It's 9 years from that accident now, and my wife's going really well. She's doing really well. But our community needs strengthening still.
And you're doing really well. And you know what you're bringing up is so valuable, because one of the things that has been stolen from us, besides so many other things, is the thing that we as humans have actually um, been admired for from other realms, is our kindness. Human kindness. That is the core of our humanity. And you know, it's interesting that you said nobody supported you, but we we have so many global disasters, right? And I always see those disasters, whether it's a tsunami, whether it is an earthquake, whether it's a volcanic eruption, whether it's the collapse of a building, whether it's the moment something happens where a multitude of people are in danger or threatened, people will risk their own life to somehow rescue anybody. And in that time, nobody says, what religion do you belong to? Who did you vote for yesterday? What color are you? Which country were you born in? We just come back to the core of our human kindness. You know, that thing that makes us magnificent. And we have sold our soul and our human kindness for the trinkets that we constantly are offered on television, on commercialism, on materialism. And if you don't have this, then your life isn't worth a crumpet. You need to have more of that. Otherwise, you are not as good as the next guy, and therefore you're a failure. It's imprinted and programmed into us from the day we're born. When you turn on any kind of media, whether you read it or you watch it, or it is just full on constantly. You need to have more to be more, or you need to have more to be more. And so we have needed these disasters. We have constantly needed, because if we look at it, those disasters occur where the most healing is needed, because then we draw all of a sudden our human kindness into that place. And as I was listening to you, I thought, isn't that interesting? Because you were in a place where you really needed nurturing, something that had been missing in your life for a long, long time. and you were crying out for it, and it didn't happen. And when I look at that and I go, how wonderful, what a wonderful thing to bring you to that awareness of this does not work for me anymore. I want to live in a world where people care for each other. And I can so see how that was the kernel of, what I call the pebble in your shoe. And ever since then, you have, needed to get the pebble out of your shoe. And the way you've done that, and you continue to do that, it's phenomenal. I just love that, because if everyone just looks within and looks at the part of their life that was the most challenging and probably the most painful, did you collapse into it and stay a victim, or did you use the gift within it and go, wow, how can I turn this lemon into a lemonade? And I love using that because I don't like lemon. So, so I just love listening to you because it's so beautiful, and we're so blessed for that incident. We're so blessed here locally and now globally as you spread these smiles everywhere you go, and you have become a force to reckon with. And that would not have happened had you not had to go through those dark things, which brings me to the socks, of course, with the dark spots and the business of smiles. So definitely beautiful.
I just want to grab something there, if that's okay, because I was an angry man. I
Mm,
had a lot of anger built up, and I displayed that for people, and that was my tool of choice in the companies that I ran. I utilized that to, I was working with steel fixers, I was working with, the hard men, and I wonder how much of a projection in that moment was my anger coming out that kept people away from me.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
And it's been a process for me to understand that. It's been a process for me to work through that, and the personal development, the people I surround myself in, what I take in now equals what I put out. Back then, what I was putting into me was fear, alcohol, drugs, all the things in life that just take you away from being the innate, beautiful human that you are. Because it's easier to avoid and numb than to step into the mirror and take responsibility. Conscious living is not an easy opportunity. That's the courage and bravery that I just implore and encourage all men to step into.
As you say that, and that's so valid, because what you were projecting, all the numbing out and all the anger, what that does, it puts a wall between you and others. And so
Mm.
when you were in need of others to reach out to you, you hadn't projected that ever. You hadn't projected an open heart and a come to me. So this is a universe of cause and effect. You get exactly what you've been sending out, and you have to send it before it arrives. So you could have been sitting there for the rest of your life until something in you asked for help. Something in you made a decision, this is not how I want to live. And in that moment, you opened a door where a couple could come forward and be with you. For me, everything is a big picture, and so that's what I see. And what you're saying is just so important, because if your life isn't exactly how you want it to be, then look at it, look for the gift. Look at, what is it in here that I need to change, that I need to, you know, make difference, so that I no longer have to sit here. And as you say, it's not for the faint of heart. Definitely not. Takes courage. My address is Courageous Court. Hmm. It takes courage to come and visit me. It took courage to live here. Um, but when you do it, when you make that change and you go from the head to the heart to the soul, as I go, oh my, how does life welcome you? It welcomes you.
I like the thought of that. I like the thought of being welcomed into life. I like the thought of a whole new way of life opening up because it's coming from your heart, you know. And it's not easy, you know. It's and that's the courage that I see in men stepping into this place because it's like I often say, don't fear my anger because you can see that you can feel it and it's rash. If you really want to fear something, fear my love because I will hold you accountable for you. I will just accept you as you are and I will support you to be a better man because of that, better human because of that, because I know that together we can create more. That there, and it's not about creating fear. It's about creating love. That's the extraordinary part, and that's I like one of a little note I just wrote while you were talking is our pain.
Mm.
I utilize my pain for fuel. I utilize it to do things that I didn't think were possible. I did a 56-kilometer run from Cape Shank to Germana and back over Arthur's Seat with a broken metatarsal in my left foot. I did it 3 days earlier because I wanted to understand how much I could handle. I wanted to understand if I put my mind in place that every single thing I'd been through in my life gifted me the opportunity to get through that pain. At the 36-kilometer mark, my foot went numb and I could start running. I'm in the middle of the bush laughing. And then I started running past people because I knew that in life, pain is there. We've all got it. No one gets out of that. But it's how we utilize it that is our true strength. That is where we take it and we grow from it and life begins. And I just love that opportunity. And that's for me, that's what the socks are about, right? It's
So,
about how do we grow.
can you then
Mm.
tell me how you turned all of that into the business of smiles?
How did I turn that into a pair of socks?
Yeah.
well, well, it's funny because my life got even more interesting in the years to come. Like a few years ago now, I had after losing everything and starting again and having my best mate step up and go, listen, we can do better than this. We'll run a swimming pool construction business and we'll do better than this. And so we took that on, you know, and we're getting into that. And so happens that an incident with my partner, who was the director of the business, I haven't shared this, and so I'll share it with you. He reversed out of his driveway and killed an elderly woman, and it messed with him.
No wonder.
And he started drinking a lot more, and business and home life became too much for him to handle. So, because of that, we asked him to step away from the business. The business was actually running insolvent, and we took that from being 300 grand in the hole to 20 grand in the hole within 18 months with him stepping away from it. But it was very clear that he couldn't come back.
Mm.
So the decision was to liquidate the business, which comes with complications.
Mm.
But we had enough. There's insurance. Every single job that we had running was perfectly okay to be finished. There was no dramas with that. But he was more important than that. But that caused me a lot of pain. That caused me a lot of opportunity. So what happened was I looked at my life and I'm like, okay, this is going to hurt. This is not going to be easy, but I need to go through this. I need to go through the whole thing. So I grabbed my two fittest mates and I said to them, I said, listen, I've got to train for something. I need something in my life right now that is going to gift me somewhere to be so I could just work on me so I can achieve something positive.
Yeah.
So we signed up for Spartan Trifecta and we started running on Sundays. So every Sunday we get together and we start talking, and I was able to share everything that was going on for me, and I was able to get it out. So I got to get home to the ones I love without the pressure of life and spend one day with them in a great space because I've already processed it. So I come home fresh and they see me smile on that morning, which was so important. So while we're doing that, we realize that there's, this is good. This is good for us. It's good to be out and about. So from 3, it ended up 40. And when we did that, we created the Smilligan, the the smiley and the kit, because one of the things that was so important as we were running along was as we saw people, we'd go morning with a big smile. So we needed to make that brighter. So we put the big smiles on our shirt. Then came the socks. These socks, they're no ordinary pair of socks, yeah? They're socks with purpose. The black dots, they represent our dark days. We all have them. No one's getting out of that. The yellow, that's that warm winter sun on your back. It's your friends and community getting around you on your dark days, sharing those dark days so that we walk stronger together. Because our dark days generally between our ears. So let's talk about them. Which has become a movement because it's the opportunity of COVID actually took that group, and we had up to 40 guys every Sunday morning at 6 a.m. walk, jog, or running, different places around the peninsula. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I might say, we got locked down, and the boys couldn't be together anymore. So we created a new opportunity. In times of regression or oppression, or however you want to look at it, there's always an opportunity. So the business of smiles evolved. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? So the business of smiles was created, which is a safe place for everybody. It's a conversation starter for all of us. These days, Shorty and I, who's the other half of the business of smiles, we walk the streets saying thank you to people for doing their best, connecting with strangers, connecting with their hearts, and leaving them with a pair of socks to remember that connection they felt when we first meet them. It's a gift that every single time somebody sees those pair of socks, it's a reminder that somebody cares. How extraordinary.
So I watched yesterday when you came to breakfast with our new Earth community, and you didn't have enough socks.
No, I didn't.
Didn't have enough socks. Everybody decided they wanted them. They wanted to give them for Christmas. They wanted to give them, they just wanted your socks. And it's infectious because it's our true nature to be kind. It's our true nature to give. And it's so interesting too when you do that and you go around and you go to speak to people randomly. The first thing that we have been trained is, what do they want from us?
Yeah.
And then when all that you want from them is to accept a pair of socks and how you're going, and a smile, it's like, that's like a warm breeze. It's like it's like a lovely, it's a heart connection. It's a touching of the inner self instead of always going through the intellect and all the judgment and all the and focus on the differences and focus on the fear. All of a sudden there is a melting. There's a melting of people that go, wow. And so for me, what you're doing is just so natural. It's organic, because that is why we have the ability to smile. What is the first thing we look for in a baby? Is that first smile. Oh, I think he smiled. Oh, no, I think he just burped. We go through that whole thing. I know, I have 3 kids and 5 grandchildren. And that first smile, it's like, oh my God, he recognized me. She smiled. No, she had wind. But it doesn't matter, if we think it's a smile, it lights us up. because it's organic. It's our nature. It's our nature to be kind. It's our nature to love. It's innate in us, but it is completely suppressed right from childhood through the conditioning and the programming of always making everyone think that they have to measure up to something. They have to measure up to something before they can be accepted enough to smile at them or to love them, or that love is a condition. That I can't love you because I don't like you. Well, I can love you and not like you at the same time, actually, because to me, love is something that is not something you give or you get. It's love is something you become. So when you become love itself, then it just pours out of you, and people either accept it or don't accept it. That's their choice. But for me, I love you because I'm the most selfish person you could find, because I love because it makes me feel fabulous. And what you do with it, I've got no control over. I just keep doing it anyway because I feel fabulous. So this is what I talk about when I say you got to give it to get it. The more I shine it out without condition, without the intention of knowing that doing it I'll get more, that doesn't enter into the equation. I love because I've become the energy of it. I can't help myself. It just pours out. And well, you saw that yesterday. As a result, people just keep coming, and they sometimes just come and say, "We came for a hug." Because when you hug a person who is love, who is pure in the heart, there is an exchange of energy that is so healing. And gosh, you are such a perfect example of that. And I just want to take our conversation to something that we women have been lamenting over for quite some time. And that is, in this day and age, I see so many women's programs, and I see women talking about we must, bring women home, we must save women, we must bring women into their sovereignty. And look, I don't mean to diminish it, but I would hate for us to turn from a completely overwhelming dictatorship of patriarchy to what would be worse, matriarchy. Because a woman who is doing that is even more powerful than a man, and we don't want to go there. It's equally destructive. The masculine and feminine has to come into balance within us and within society. So, when people come to my groups and they say, "Oh, you've got men here," and I'm like, "My oath, I do." Because we need to do this together. So what I value about you and what I love so much about you is that you're out there and you're bringing men home. And that is essential for us to get anywhere. It needs to be together as one, in balance, in love. So talk about that passion.
The divine dance between masculinity and femininity. It's an extraordinary dance, and it's something I love and embrace, because and the way I love to see it is a man with love in his heart will move a mountain for you. A man scorned cannot move a grain of sand. So we need to strengthen our men again. We need to take them into the new reality of what's to come. We take them back into their heart space. Let them know that it's okay to love. Let them know that the femininity, that divine energy, right, it flows between us, and it's an understanding and acceptance of one another. But it all starts within.
Yeah.
We've got to go within and understand ourselves so that we don't project our pain, so that we can sit and listen and understand one another. I can't wait for next year. I've got some extraordinary opportunities coming forward. We're creating safe spaces for men to come and explore themselves, because one of the things for me in that dance between masculinity and femininity is we actually need a safe place to practice the things that we're going to project. We need to understand how that happens before we, and I don't, I'm trying to find another word, right? It's, if, like, it's, I'm really trying, because I really don't want to use this word. Let's go with the dance between a man and a woman, right? That energy is just so powerful, but it can also be so destructive. So how do we strengthen one another? Well, we do that by understanding one another, but we need to understand ourselves first. When I
Oh,
walk
yes.
when I walk in the streets, I always have these notepads with me as well in my backpack, and depending on the person I meet. And I also have some pens, which I normally have here, but I haven't got them next to me. And I gift people a pen and a notepad, and depending on the person, I say, what's the value of that pen and the book? I know, $1, $2. So now it's determined by what you do with it. The most valuable story you will ever write is yours. Because if you own it, you don't need to project it and you don't need to justify it. So I get the first page of the book and I write, who am I? And then I ask them to have the courage to fill that book out. And then on the last page, I put, what is my purpose? If you have the courage and strength to investigate who you are, I guarantee you'll find your purpose within. And it is extraordinary. Like the book cost me 15 cents from Officeworks. Pens I get gifted by David Torelli from Hot Promos, who are an extraordinary company of just support. But the value lies within the book, within you. But the effort you need to take to make that happen is worth every single bit of it. Next year, we've got Smiles for Life. We're doing our 12 Days of Christmas, first and foremost, which is connecting with the community of Frankston, because that's our home. That's something for me that, so often, how do we make an impact? What is it we've got to do to make an impact? We can either have a small impact on a huge community. We've got to live in a global community these days. Or we can have a huge impact on your community.
Yeah.
Okay. And I feel that we're looking externally to resolve problems. We're looking to Africa, we're looking to Asia, and we're trying to support these problems. But our own backyard's not kept. Our own backyard isn't strong. The community we live in has people living in standards that aren't okay. How about we clean up our own backyard? How about we support our community that we live in to make us all strong? 1 + 1 = 3. I'll explain. Volunteer boss, Scott Carson. We bring our magic together. We share and support more people with love in our hearts. We take Von's community, we take Scott's community, and we amalgamate and grow and cross-pollinate, and then our garden grows and bears more fruit. How can we in our community create 1 + 1 = 3? How can we cross-pollinate and grow more fruit in our garden so that then we can give that to other communities?
Yeah, it's always about the can do's. We are so focused on the can't do's and what's wrong. And of course, what you focus on, you feed. And for me, it is so valuable. And I love the question you pose to people, who are you? Because the three most important questions for us to ask at every level as we begin our personal development and we find different levels within ourselves, we have to keep asking these three questions. Who am I? Why am I here? That's a purpose. And where are we going? Because once you find out who you are, which is not the persona with a soul, but a soul with a vehicle that has a name, and then you find out what your purpose is, why the heck am I here? What the hell we're doing here? And then it is, well, obviously, the Von doesn't really know because she's been trying this and trying that and trying something else. So how about the life force that incarnated me in the first place take over, and where are we going? I'm willing to come. And it's that moment of surrender where we get out of all the programmed intellect and analysis that drives us crazy. And we just listen to that inner voice, that intuition. And having come here as a foreigner, having to learn that crazy language called English, I became very aware of what the word intuition meant. It meant an inner teacher. And I was always wanting to learn. So I listened to that inner teacher. Now, yes, you can't get away with saying anything that isn't true because I hear instantly, oh, really? But like everyone else, I was programmed out of that, separate to that. Humans have been programmed to believe that we're separate from nature, that we're separate from each other, that we're separate from everything, including what some people call God. And to me, that word kind of is taking, infinity and putting it into a matchbox. This amazing intelligence that creates all things, created you, it's created me for a reason. So why the hell am I breaking my neck trying to please authority that tells me that I'm not allowed to do this and I'm not allowed to do that and I have to pay for that and do something else, when there is a force much greater than that telling me, no, it's okay. You are the expression of source, and as such you are the creator of your own reality. So create whatever you choose and follow that inner voice and turn off the volume of the outer one and watch it all reveal itself. And when yesterday we shared this time with these over 30 people who are just off the scale as far as love and openness and acceptance and welcoming. I mean, I sit there and I go, whoa, how did this all happen? And I'm sure that you have the same feeling with your socks. I watched it in action yesterday. You gave me a pair of socks. We waved it about, and the next moment it was like, whoom, where are they? How can I get them? So when we step into that groove of why am I here, and into that energy that is aligned with life, because life is a forward-moving energy. And anything that we're involved in that I've learned that isn't moving me forward into becoming more of me, not more of the persona, but more of the truth of me as the expression of source. The more that I go on that groove, the greater this vista becomes. And hey, we are habitual addictive creatures. And I always say, get addicted and be in the habits of all the things that are going to make you expand and make life become more. And if that's not what you're invested in, I think it's time to stop and have a good look inside. And this is what I love too. You and I, we're in the same business. We just, we're encoded to present it and project it in our individual way. And together we make magic. It was just so, it was palpable, the energy yesterday that was created. Loved it. So you said the other day that those socks now are going worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which is phenomenal. So maybe in the chat, can you put a link there for people so that they can see where they can get your socks? And can I do a plug for you?
Love you too. But if we could do a plug before we do the plug, can I share a little something about the socks? Because it's super important,
Yes.
and which I've literally and just about to put a few videos together for, because
Okay.
part of the opportunity with the socks is not just buying a pair of socks and giving them to somebody. There's a methodology behind it, because one of the big things that we discussed yesterday, that I was gifted the opportunity to share this particular story about. We all know people who are struggling a little bit at the minute, and how do we connect with them? How do we let them know that we're thinking about them, that we see them, that we understand that there's some struggles for them, and that we're here without adding pressure, without having to take on everything, because so often just to be seen can often be enough. What we do is you gift them a pair of socks, and so I just want to thank you for doing your best right now. I'd like to gift you a pair of socks. You let the meaning from your heart of what those dark days mean. When you share that, when they feel safe, they'll share the dark days. But in that moment, they are seen and acknowledged. That's the power of the socks. That's the power of that honest, caring connection, because you're gifting them with care and love to let somebody know that you see them. But you're not adding the pressure of a story. You're just letting them know. And that is the most powerful thing you can gift to people. As I walk the streets connecting with people, anybody from sleeping rough to numbing themselves to a CEO, it doesn't matter. We all have dark days. We all have the opportunities. So gifting these socks is fantastic, and kids adore them. And this for me is like, I'm going to go on a tangent, but it's life. The kids love it, right? So we are at the dawn of a new time where our kids won't accept the way in which the world currently is. They will not accept it. They
Thank
demand
goodness.
more of humanity, right? They demand that they have a purpose. They demand that. They're looking at the abundance of the world and they're going, this doesn't work. There's people in pain. There's poverty. There's all these opportunities. Our own backyards aren't working right. Let's figure it out. They wear the socks with so much pride. When I was up in Lismore in all the recovery camps, and I didn't know if I belonged there or not, because, hey, I'm an outsider going up there they've just gone through floods, right? And devastated, people without homes. Here I am running through town with a big smile going into recovery camps. I was told that nobody would speak to me. 3.5 hours later, after I'd spoken to every single person in there, I had a conversation and gifted a pair of socks, just with care, just with love in my heart, without any projection other than to say, I see you. Teach me about you. It was extraordinary. I went back 10 days later with my son, and he went to the school, and people were wearing the socks as gloves, as stubby holders, as all sorts of things, because they wanted to keep the smile close. That's how much that meant to them. And I was so proud of these beautiful, beautiful people. Who would have thought a pair of socks can change the world? And if you want them, I'm here right now. There's my website, www.ihopeyouaresmiling.com, the business of smiles. Jump on there, check it out, see what we do. Buy yourself a pair of socks. Because when people, this is the beautiful thing about the socks, when you're walking the streets and people see them, they look down, they see your feet, they start smiling. You see them looking down, looking at your feet, and you know they're going to smile, so you start smiling. And then all of a sudden, your first interactions with a smile. Quickest way from my heart to your heart's through the eyes with a smile, because a smile comes from your eyes, not your mouth. And that's one of the greatest gifts, like whether you're a mask wearer or not is irrelevant. I could see everybody's eyes and I loved seeing that joy and that sparkle and that just, I love it. The keys of the soul are through the eyes, you know. Always remember that. Sorry, a bit of a tangent, but hey.
No, I mean this is. I mean, you know, it's all organic, and that's what I love about you, because there is anyone who's listening to you knows that this is coming from a deep, deep passion to
Yeah.
make this a better world, and this is what we're all about. It's saying no to, you know, all the people that are trying to take our power away, and saying yes to, we know how we are meant to live. We know it's innate in us to know how a human can thrive and how a human does not thrive. And so, whatever we can do to give people just that glimmer of light to go towards, and to just lift that energy in them that will move them forward into the flow of life itself. You know, whether it's a hug, whether it's a smile, you know, whatever it is, or whether it's coming to a brekkie of a whole lot of people that just can't love you enough, or whether it's coming to a picnic where we bring out drums and bowls and we sing, and we just flow into the love of life itself. You know, that is what we know we need. We don't need people to tell us what to do with our bodies. We don't need people to give us rules and regulations that certainly serve them and fills their pockets, and it fills their ego, but it does nothing for humanity as a whole. It, you know, and as a result, humanity has become very stagnated, and there was no thriving for a long time. And that is now over because, as you say, the young people who have come during this time of transition, they won't put up with it anymore. They want to go back to the land. They want to go back to growing their own food. They want to go back. You know, when you think about it, you know, the one thing that always made me just as nonplussed, I suppose, is a word that comes to me, was when somebody who had taken authority over said that we couldn't save seeds. I just laughed, and I thought, you know, the seed is the kernel of life itself. The seed within us needs to be nurtured and needs to be fed and needs to be, you know, allowed freedom to breathe. And the seed in every plant deserves that too. So how that's nature in itself, and we are nature. And when we learn and when we come back to that knowing that nature is a fluid energy, and one that, you know, it's funny because one thing that people, I don't know if they realize, but it's just coming as an example, is that trees, we only see what's above the ground. But under the ground, all the roots are actually seeking each other. And there's a real conversation going on in a forest. The roots are interacting with each other under the ground. And that is what we've stopped doing. We've stopped connecting and interacting and having this fluidity of nature within humanity itself. And that's what this transition is about. And that is what we are now retrieving within ourselves, and therefore retrieving within the collective. And I just love everything you're about. So, Scott, I really
I,
am.
I really want to grab that, and I started twisting around because I'm looking for something in particular that I. So why socks, right? Why socks? Our feet are our foundations,
Yes.
right? Our foundations are what hold us strong, right? It's not an accident that I chose socks and I put on the base of every sock the business of smiles, because if we're strong and our roots, our foundations get strengthened,
Grounded.
then we stand stronger. I look at it, and when I do some of my presentation work, I talk about how we are so similar to trees, our emotions and our stories and our strength, right? So if we work on the different parts of life, you've got relationships, financial, and you take the relationship route and you strengthen it, and it goes into the ground further, it holds you stronger. Your foundations are stronger. Therefore, the unexpected weather that comes your way has less effect because your foundations are strong. Then you grab the financial route and you put that into the ground and you make that stronger. That holds you there. Then you work on your mental and physical health on that route for a while and it goes stronger in, and you continually grow. Therefore, you grow and you strengthen yourself. We are very much like nature. For me personally, there are so many keys to who we are and what we can be within nature if we take the time to sit and listen and appreciate it. But I love that, right? Because I'm a very much of my mentality is that we are all one, that we all encompass one another, and we all have an imprint on one another by our actions and reactions. In saying that, we've seen what a society of fear looks like. We've seen how it's been run. How does that feel for you? Every single piece of marketing is a way of making you feel like you're not adequate enough. You haven't got this, so you're not you. So it's a fear of inadequacy, a fear of not enough. We don't have, and for me, I see what a world of fear is created. I don't like it. But I challenge you. What would a world of love look like? Because you have a choice. You have a choice to choose love with every action you put forward. And here's the key. I'm evidence of what fear was, what it became. We can choose change. We can choose to listen to your inner voice. We can choose to grow through this opportunity that we live in right now. It's going to take a little bit. It's going to take the opportunity. When we learn to walk, we fall over a lot. But we need to continually make effort, keep practicing it, learning it. How good does it feel? And this is, again, another little story inside why the socks are so important. They are very good quality socks. They are very comfortable to put on. Why? Because how does it feel when someone gives you something that's not great and it's cheap and nasty? How does that feel? You feel cheap and nasty. But if I give you something of good quality, when's the last time somebody gave you a present that really meant something to you because they understood you? The best present, bar none, I have ever received off my wife and my son was a $1 book. The Essence of Happiness from the Dalai Lama. Why was that the most powerful thing? Because they understood me. They understood me. And it's the one thing for me that it was just, you cannot fill my heart enough when you take the time to understand me. But it's taken time for them to learn that. It's taken time for me to learn that. And I see that as the human race right now. I see that as the opportunity that, okay, we've had a crack at this. I had the opportunity of having COVID. I thought it was great. I had 2 weeks where I got to lie down on the couch, rest and recover. It took a bit out of me. But while I was there, I looked through wars throughout time. And I sat and looked at all of these wars, how horrible we've been to one another throughout our existence. The fear of loss, the fear of not having the ownership, the fear of I wonder, and I dream. What would it look like if we chose love? And then I stopped and I smiled and I chose love and I chose to live with it in my heart.
Yes, and that is the world of the new earth, and that is what we
Mm.
have all chosen. All of us who are walking away from the old and walking towards the new, the heart to heart, the human kindness, retrieving our innate connection to the greater good. And when we do that, life becomes beautiful. It doesn't become without challenges, but we see the challenges as gifts. We see the challenges of opportunities that there's something else for us to learn from. And we don't collapse into them. And we do not look constantly to somebody else to tell us how to live or what to do, particularly if it comes from fear. Anything that comes from fear is never for your good. I can promise you, never. When it comes from love, then it is worth listening to. And I really, really, I love our conversation, Scott. I know this isn't going to be the last time that you and I are going to be having this chat. Um, it's so powerful, and what you're doing for humanity, what you're doing for men, and really opening your heart to welcome men into an intimacy of relationship where they, for me, I've always had this thing, I am a safe place to fall. And that's exactly what you are creating everywhere you go for men who have been incredibly wounded and misdirected and misprogrammed and very lost. Women are lost in a different way, and we're all finding our way home eventually, and we're doing it together. We cannot continuously do it separately. We're doing it together. And that is why I just love working with what I call the divine masculine. Because the divine masculine is bloody macho. It is strong. It is really powerful. It isn't sissy. Don't think it. Okay, you only have to meet this guy that he is one macho Aussie bloke. And it is beautiful because that's the divine masculine. It is so strong, as is the divine feminine.
Mm.
It is strong. It is what they call the iron fist in a velvet. It's the velvet club. It's the other way around. It's the outer strength that comes from this deep, deep love for life, for humanity, for nature that we're part of. And I just value every moment with you and everything I see you do. And I just want to say that we live in a place called Frankston, and for those of you who are listening from overseas or interstate and where it is, it's a little place. It's a gateway to the Mornington Peninsula, and I tell you, this place is rocking with new Earth beings that have turned their back on the old. And it's always had such a bad reputation as, sort of the bogan town. Mind you, I've lived here for a long, long time, never seen that, but it depends where you look. But I can tell you that the communities that are building up in within our locality is phenomenal. And we are all interactive, and we're all, producing light, love, expansion, and a new way to be that is coming from the heart. And I am forever grateful that you've been brought into my reality. And that is obviously always destined, as I always know. So I would love to have you, let's do this again, or I can be your team. We've now connected, so there is no way of disconnecting this association.
I love it, Ron, and I want to honor you, right? Because you live in your heart, and it's a it's a brave thing to do when so often we fear being ourselves.
Mm.
You know, and to be you is the best gift you can give you and everybody else around you. So from my heart to yours, Ron, I want to honor you for being you.
Yes, thank you. And again, it's with you. It's when our you, when we talk about the I and the you, when it is soul and persona in union, that's when we see the best of ourselves.
Great.
Love you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
love to
much.
you too. Yeah.
Hey, let's do this again. Hey.
And I'd love to next time talk about love. I'd actually like to talk about it because I honestly don't believe that people understand what love is. And I think that in itself is a phenomenal conversation. So perhaps we can tee that
Oh,
up for next year.
what a better way to start.
Hmm.
2023. It's going to blow our minds, our hearts.
So excited. I'm so excited about 2023. I'm so excited about what we can bring forward. And like,
I know.
it's just, I, call me crazy, but I think we're at the most exciting time in life. I think human existence is about to go through the roof because of the opportunities like this. Like, yeah, I'm so excited.
Well, let's all stay excited for what's coming. For me, I started this journey in 1987, and honestly, it was pretty jolly lonely. I was this weird kooky bird that lost her mind. And for me to now see how that has exploded and expanded, and I'm going, yes, I trusted that this was my mission, and I never walked away from it. Well, almost never. I did try to resign a few times, but they wouldn't have it. So, so for me, it's such a reward to be talking to someone like you. It is absolutely wonderful. It's made every painful moment worth it. Let's do this again soon.
Done.
Love you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Likewise.